quick video here for ENGR1000, and let's see if we can make this work here. Let's go to this thing doesn't want to open up. There we go. Okay. All right, so we're going to start off by talking about communication in general for engineers. And I've got, where did I put my book? I don't know where my book ended up. Got one here somewhere. But anyway, for engineering, communication is really about three things. That's about being concise, being clear, and being to the point. Nobody wants to hear a lot of extra fluff, a lot of extra language if you're not getting to the point, if they're not getting the information that they need. And this chapter is going to give us some information on how to communicate our ideas, our conclusions, our work, whatever it is that we need to communicate in a manner that is clear, concise, and to the point. So first of all, we start off with topic selection. And at the very beginning of the chapter, 147, page 147, they give us like two sentences on topic selection. But it's much more involved than that. Engineers are required to know who their audience is and choose their topics accordingly. Not necessarily to choose the overall topic, because the overall topic is not necessarily something that you choose as an engineer. Usually that is chosen by the project that you're doing. But you want to be able to choose the subtopics so that they are relevant and appropriate to the audience that you're speaking to. So first you need to recognize your audiences. Engineers speak to many different audiences. They may speak to fellow engineers, they may be speaking to technicians, they may be speaking to people who are investing in their project or their company, they may be speaking to the president of their company, they may be speaking to people that have come to them and asked for their services. They're essentially their employers. There's lots of different people that engineers may end up speaking to and communicating with, and they need to understand the differences in communicating with them. For example, if you're speaking to other engineers or technicians or scientists, you can usually communicate in a way that is very technical and has a lot of detail in that way. However, if you're working with if you're working with, bean counters, the people who are in charge of the money, it's a completely different deal. You have to understand that people who are worried about the money that they're spending or the money that they're making, they want not to hear so much the technical stuff. They really want to hear what this is going to make for them, how much money they're going to have to spend to do it, what kind of resources, what kind of time, what kind of people are going to be involved. Those are the things that they're worried about. And so you have to approach things differently for different groups, for different audiences, essentially. Sometimes you have to really leave out a lot of the technical jargon, a lot of the numbers. Sometimes you even have to leave out graphs and replace those things with explanations. You may end up spending more time teaching people than you are actually communicating with them, although teaching is a form of communication. But sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes it's necessary to kind of educate your audience as you go. And you have to be prepared to do that. So choosing or recognizing who your audience is and choosing how you approach the topics and how you choose your subtopics within your topic, a very big deal in engineering. And you need to keep it in mind. In the second section, they go on and on about research and all the different places where we can do research. And the first thing that they talk about are technical journals. So technical journals come from societies and organizations that are essentially professional societies for particular professions, for particular fields of engineering, particular fields of science, whatever else. The IEEE, which I believe stands for International Electronic Engineering, something like this. This is one of the biggest engineering societies in the world, but there are other ones as well. There are many other ones. This is just one that I came up with off the top of my head, and they have publications. If we click on their publications thing here, you can see that they have the IEEE Explore Digital Library, which contains all the stuff that they do, but they also have IEEE Spectrum. Spectrum is more of a kind of general magazine kind of publication where they talk about the basic ideas of things that are going on in engineering today. So you can see here that they're doing PCB rule, fly's heart controlled with a laser, simulating graphene enhanced devices. Some of these can get fairly technical, but they're not really technical. They're not really hard to read. If you're not an expert, you can usually understand a little bit about what they're doing in these problems. However, some of their publications will have much more. So let's take a look at some of their other publications that they do that are more focused on certain things. So let's look at some of these societies here. Technical councils. They're not showing me a list of the societies here. That's okay. Let's go to a different one so that we can see here. Let's go to mechanical engineering. And I can't remember the name of their society, but we'll just plug it into Google here, and we'll come up here. The American Society of Mechanical Engineers, ASME. That's what it's called. And so, American Society of Mechanical Engineers has many technical journals that are involved with it. And let's see if we can find one. We're not going to be able to see much of the technical journals because most of the technical journals are things that you have to have access to. So here we have papers. That's for papers at a conference. So that's the proceedings from a conference. And let's see, competitions, shop, journals, here we go. So their technical journals include journals under all kinds of topics. For example, they have one under automotive, and they have an automotive engines, Journal of Engineering for Gas Turbines and Power. So it's $100 a year for this particular journal. And let's click on it and see what it tells us about it, anything else it tells us. Covering a broad spectrum of practical topics, interest in gas turbine power industry. So they give us some basic ideas, and to submit an article into this, it's not an easy process. You have to go through this long list of this application process, and you have to fill out all kinds of forms, and then you have to do the research, and you have to turn in your article, and then when you turn in your article, they'll actually send this article out to other professional people in this field so that they can check it. They can check it to see if it's good science, if it's good engineering. And then they might even try to do some of the things you did to verify that you're doing good stuff. So these technical journals are a really good place for engineers to go and get information, because this is what engineers are doing right now and what they've been doing for years and years and years. Some of these journals have publications going over 100 years back. So technical journals are a very useful place to get information. These same people that submit articles in technical journals, after they've amassed a lot of information and knowledge on a particular subject, they may write books. So you may go to some of these books by these authors and these engineers and these scientists and get your information from their books, the books of these specialists and these experts in their field. I mentioned that when you go to a conference, you can submit a paper, you can submit a presentation, you can submit a poster. And those things are always kept in an archive online somewhere so that you can look at those. So when you go to an engineering conference, you can listen to what people are doing right now. They've been doing it that week maybe, and to get the latest to date information. Not necessarily, it's not always the best information, but it is the latest information. So conferences are a good place to get information. Encyclopedias, Wikipedia for example, is a good place to start to get information. It's not a great place to end your information trail, but I would start there and go and look at, for example, if we wanted to do electrical engineering, and it brings up Wikipedia article right about here in the front here, the top of the page, and we go to Wikipedia and we start reading some information. We get a a basic synopsis and maybe a history and something like this. I think the best place to go in the Wikipedia article is to the end and start looking through the bibliography and through some of the references that were made, so that you can start to see who are the experts on this stuff. This is where this information in Wikipedia came from. And so you can start to use this information to start your research on other things. And you can see here that they have an IEEE link to the website we went to for IEEE. Let's see. So that covers technical journals, books, conference proceedings, encyclopedias, but there are also government reports and educational websites. So websites that have a .gov suffix and a .edu suffix, those are hard to get. You have to be a school or you have to be a government to have those, and those are generally more regulated than .coms, .nets, .orgs. So those are good places to go and get information. You may also go to the patent office online, searching patents if you're inventing something, a new process or a new product. So patents are a place that you can go for information. You can also go to the popular press, and you can even use notes from classes you've taken or textbooks from classes you've taken. And of course the internet is a veritable gold mine of information, but there's a lot of junk out there too, so you have to check the references and the resources, the bibliographies on websites as well. Make sure that they're linking to good information, they're getting good information, and they're doing good things with it. And that can be quite important. Of course, libraries have a lot of information in them as well, various lots and lots of books usually, and also various learning search engines and other things that are only available at libraries. So how are we going to organize information once we get it? The book gives us 6 different ways to organize information. They give us the chronological strategy, which is organizing things according to a timetable. For example, if you're building a building and the first thing that you build is the foundation, and the next thing you build is this, and the next thing is that, then you can prepare a paper or a presentation based on the order in which you did things, chronological order. But there's also a spatial strategy. For example, if you're making a coffee maker and there's a heater that's inside of a water tank, then maybe you want to talk about the water tank first, because if you talk about the heater first, people are going to wonder where this heater is if they don't know there's a water tank. And so spatial has to do with how things are put together, the geometry, the actual construction of something, what goes where. The debate strategy uses the pros and cons of a situation. You can advocate and fight against things and look at it from a pros and cons. These are the good things, these are the bad things, and expand on each of those. You can also do a general to specific strategy, where you start with, this is a general problem that's out there in the world, but there's some more specific things about it that we want to discuss, and we're our specific solution, and go from a general to specific. You can go to a problem to solution. Here's our problem, here's our solution. You can do motivational strategy. You can present people with reasons for doing something, and then give them a solution or give them a path to follow, to motivate them to follow your path. All of these different ways you can organize your information and organize your presentation or your paper or whatever it is you're going to communicate to people. And that is essentially where what we've covered so far in chapter 6. There is some chapter 6 homework to do. We're not quite ready to do it. We're going to learn more about giving oral presentations and about writing improving our sentences and things like this. And in the back of the book, you can see 6.1 and 6.2 each have a lot of parts to them. Essentially just have a bunch of different sentences that you're going to learn to rewrite in better ways. And the clues for doing that are all in the last sections of the book, in section 6.3, and there's lots of different subsections in section 3 on how to make sentences better. So you can go through those and you can start working on your homework and be good to go. We will on Monday, instead of giving a test, instead of having a test during class, I will give you the test to take home. But we will spend the rest of the time Monday finishing up chapter 6, especially talking about giving oral presentations and helping you a little bit further with the homework and answering any questions that you have. So if you have any questions, send me emails, give me calls, and we will address those, and we will talk more on Monday about communicating in engineering.